So the first ever F1 75 just happened, and it was definitely interesting. Now, first of all, I think the event was better than I thought, and I think a lot of other people thought. And I think it was a good way to sort of start the new season with all the teams being together and announcing their liveries at the same time. Now, I do think it was a little bit elongated. I don't know if it had to be 2 hours long, and some of the things like the live performances were a little bit cringy. I don't really think it needed to happen, but ultimately F1 is a global sport that has sort of been glamorized over the last couple of years, so it makes sense that they would try and do something like this. Now, from a British perspective, I obviously thought there was a lot of British representation in it. It makes sense it's at the O2, but maybe trying to change the location in other years probably would be for the best to give other people that sort of platform too. I could definitely see how there might be a little bit too much British in it, and I know obviously about the whole British bias thing. For instance, Max Verstappen getting booed is obviously going to be something that a lot of the global audience don't really want to see, but ultimately the British audience aren't ever going to hold back, so maybe you could put it in a safer location for next time. Although of course most of the teams are based within the UK, so it does definitely make it a little bit easier. Now, there was a lot of pros and cons with the event overall though. So first of all, I want to go through the pros. I do think that Jack Whitehall was a good host. I know he can be a little bit cringy, a little bit on that British side, but I didn't think it was too bad. I liked how he was kind of making jokes with the drivers and sort of making it a lot more of an open and fun place to be, rather than necessarily a negative place that the FIA have tried to make it over the last few weeks. I liked how they were asking people who were not afraid to say their opinions. We obviously saw Gordon Ramsay talk about how they should be allowed to swear, which obviously he's going to say that if anyone knows what Gordon Ramsay does for a living. And I do think that is kind of what the fans feel like, and the drivers right now, that the FIA have gone too far with this sort of swearing stupidness. I also liked personally how every single team kind of got their moment, and the drivers that maybe don't get as much limelight, or even some of the rookies, kind of got their moment to shine. I'm looking at people like Jack Doolan, who we know is not going to be in that seat probably for the future in a couple of weeks time, so it's nice to see him get a lot of moment in front of a lot of people. Now, a personal favourite of mine as well was the entrance to Aston Martin. I thought that James Bond sort of reference was really cool. Of course, we get it with the Aston Martin links, and I do think it was a little bit of a funner event with everyone together than you would get with people separate. It sort of kept biases away from a certain groups, and it sort of became a lot more of a universal thing, which I do think F1 should aim to be. Also, the major positive I think with having this was the fact that the FIA got booed. I know it may seem like not a big deal, but it is quite funny to think they put this event on and all of this, and they congratulated the FIA of making F1 safer like it always has, and then they just got booed out of the building. Now, I'm not necessarily so sure I agree with the Max Verstappen boost. That is definitely British bias, and inherently he's done nothing actually wrong. Christian Horner the other way, that is fair enough in my opinion, but the FIA having been booed was actually quite funny, and I think it is something that people need to voice their opinions a lot more. I think that the FIA are absolutely ruining the sport at this moment, and they need to be held accountable, and I think like moments like this are the only real way that people are going to share their discontent for them when they're there. Now, for cons, like I said, it did go on a little bit too long. I think the teams shouldn't have really had that amount of time, and I do think overall, if you look at the 2 hours, it was kind of boring. I felt like a lot really wasn't going on in big moments, and a lot of F1 in itself doesn't seem to really take the jokes quite well. They don't really like to be laughed at, even though I think that given any moment you can be, but that is the sort of situation they've ever been really in before, so it's hard to just throw them in the deep end. I also think when it comes to creative standpoint, you know, the people they had singing on the show, the people that performed, I mean, now that DJ that did the Alpine livery reveal is going to be a meme forever. That guy went on for incredibly a long amount of time that just needed to stop, and I think creatively they don't really have an idea, these teams, of how they want to show their car or show their drivers in a well enough way to make it a great product. Now, it is the first year, maybe they'll continue to do this and maybe it'll make it a little bit better, but if it is a one-off, I do find it a bit of a weird situation. Now, the DJ himself was actually a guy called Brian Tyler, who actually is the composer for the F1 song, so of course they had to get him in there, I guess, some way, but it did just feel like it wasn't the time and place to be putting on a full DJ set for a long time. And my last real negativity about it is the liveries himself. Now, not really obviously about the show, this is nothing really to do with it, but I do think the liveries were quite a letdown. Maybe I'll do another video where I rank them all, because I think that could be quite fun. But for now, we are going to probably agree on the best one, which is that RB Cash Visa app. Wow, that car looks amazing. Overall, I think the show can definitely be improved on if they were to do another one, and I definitely think it weren't perfect. A little bit cringy, a little bit awkward at moments, and not really needed to go on as long as it did. However, I did feel like it is quite a good way to show F1 what's coming up for the next season, rather than just getting straight into it like we usually see. And, you know, it might help new audiences get involved in it, you never know. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one.